All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Raghav, and today we're going to have a brainstorming session on how to solve India's unemployment crisis. Okay, so this is the topic. And actually, last week we were supposed to have a discussion regarding education. This was the agreement on the WhatsApp group. But, I decided to go with the unemployment as a problem that we should attack first because I think education is kind of like a secondary problem to solve at the moment. I think these two are related. Education and unemployment are very related. There are like failures on one end which causes failures on the other end. So they're kind of related, but I wanted to go ahead with looking at unemployment first. And then, because the economic aspirations are very important to look at. You need to make sure that you are stabilizing the economic security of a nation before you have the stability to actually work on the more nuanced and higher level aspirations like education. So that's the reason why I wanted to prioritize the unemployment crisis for this session. So what's going to happen is that we're going to have like 4 total sessions on this topic. And today is our first session. And today's session, we'll basically go ahead and try to understand the problem first. Because if you want to act as a think tank. So basically our job in the next 4 weeks is that we're going to act as like think tank, and we're going to arrive at like critical initiatives that we can plan or propose to solve this problem. Okay, so this is the objective, and it's going to be a very fun and intellectual exercise. Plus, it could potentially have like a real world outcome as well if somebody chooses to take it up and proceed with it. And also, just as a on its own merit, I feel like it's a very good intellectual exercise for citizens to be part of something like this, so that we can understand political moves that are being made in relation to what actually needs to be worked out in the country. So we have to have a clear understanding of the problems of the country. So without rambling further, I'm going to share my screen. And what we do is like we basically try to do this on a FigJam file. So here you see that the title is here. I hope you guys can see my screen. So the title is How to Solve Unemployment Crisis in India. And we're going to start by listing down certain observations about the problem, and we can use some database approach. But in the meantime, do you guys have any questions? Did I make a clear point as to how we're going to proceed and what we're doing here?
So is it like we'll be going around the table, giving each of us a few minutes or something, and then
No, not like that. It's a much more informal, much more relaxed. If you
Can
have
I
something,
ask you something?
if you have something to say, just raise your hand, and so we can have an organized expression of views. So Shivakumar,
can you hear
just
me?
give me one second. We can hear you. Just give me 1 second. Let me finish something, and then you can speak. So the protocol is basically that anybody can come and contribute their views. All you have to do is raise your hand. In the bottom of your screen, you'll see that there's a reaction button. Click on that, and then there'll be an option to raise your hand, so you can get in line to speak. So that way we can have an organized communication. But otherwise, I'll be sharing the screen, and you're free to offer your suggestions. Mostly I'll be thinking through things, and then if you have something to say, you can just raise your hand and speak. And I think Saravnan, I think you had some, or Shivakumar, right? Shivakumar, you had something to say. Please go ahead.
Yeah, by employment, does this what kind of employment are we talking? Is it like gig work, or is it salaried? Because I think the state considers gig employment to be unemployment only. What do you think about that? Do you think that's right?
What do you mean by rig employment? What is that?
No, gig
employment.
work. Yeah.
See, let's take a step back from all of these technicalities. We are looking at the nature of the problem is that society has a lot of youth, and if these people are not employed into something useful or productive, economically productive, we are basically wasting the potential of these youth. Okay, so that is the problem. It doesn't, and obviously from an individual perspective, they want to have financial sustenance. So whether it is a paid, monthly salary job or something else that is paying for their existence, then they are not a problem that we need to solve. There are a lot of people who do not have that avenue to earn a living. So those are what we are considering as unemployed. And we need to first get the stats on this. So actually, it's a good thing that you brought this up, so we can have
because the statistics is really diversified, right? So I think there's some stats consider the EPF. When you get salaried income, we get an EPF, right? And I don't know how like some of the stats get their data from unorganized sector, because that is like it happens on cash, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like really diversified. This is why I
See,
just wanted to.
we'll go with whatever the best statistics that we have, but let's first define things. See, we're not trying to have like a contest on the nuance or the being
Yeah, I
pedantic
know,
about the
yeah.
terms. What we need to do is look at the problem from a real world perspective. Who are the people who are ultimate victims of this crisis? The people who are not earning a living, and they don't have like a financial security. And we can honestly even include the very extremely low paid jobs as being unemployed, the same as unemployed, or different lesser degree of unemployment. For example, there are people who are making very very less amount of money, like they can't really sustain their family, and that is in a certain sense that they're doing it because they don't have better alternative, right? And that is also like a second hand crisis of consequence of having unemployment as a crisis, right? So I think individuals who are not financially independent and are not earning sufficiently. So we can, by this definition, right, we can include criteria for unemployed. So we can also include people who make less than X rupees per month are qualified as unemployed.
Can I ask, why
Yeah.
are you taking people who make less than amount of rupees uh, as taking them as unemployed? Like, if the
Okay, let's
value
say,
of
let me
if
give
the
you an
value.
example. Mhm.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Because
Let
they
me
don't
give you an
have financial
example.
security, right?
Yeah, let me give you an example. There is an auto guy. He has two kids. Now, his wife is a housewife, and maybe she's doing like a daily wage, making 100 rupees per month, per day or something. And he is making, let's say, 250 rupees, 300 rupees per day. And sometimes even that is missing. Now, this guy is making about 10,000 rupees per month. And his wife is making let's say 3,000 rupees. So totally they're making 13,000 rupees. And they're supposed to take care of rent, their kids' education, clothes, and utensils, and all of these other things, and groceries. Now, is this person suffering or not? Right? If they had something else to do, they would probably do that. Right? So we do, yeah, Suryansh, please go ahead.
Yeah, so that will technically apply to even people who are, say, earning for 40,000 rupees per month, and their living standards is high enough that they don't eventually make any net take home earnings, right? So the way you're defining unemployment, I understand, is from a net take home POV, or after all the expenses, etc. But
No, I don't think.
okay,
I think it's like basic necessities covered. Like, for example, the minimum wage entails that he affords basic necessities, right? Like food and shelter. Is that the definition? I don't.
No, yeah, I think
But
we need to
minimum
examine
wage.
what poverty line in India is. India has set its official
Yeah,
threshold at 26
PPL.
rupees
Yeah.
per day, and 32 rupees in urban areas. And
yeah.
by
So
this definition,
just to
right,
complete the
they are not.
points. Hey,
Yeah.
sorry, just to complete the point, my question was, the broader question was, where do you draw the line, right? So
Yeah.
I understand people who might be earning and who are above, let's say, the income level defined here,
Mhm.
but that the gray area, the gray region which is there, how are we defining that? Is where my question was basically.
Yeah, that's what we're discussing. So that's why I put it as X,
Okay.
because we have to discuss it yet.
Take.
Anything else?
No, no.
But on the
But
contrary,
let's say,
it could
uh,
be, yeah.
Shreyas finish,
So,
and then the next person can speak.
okay.
okay. But on the contrary, some person, some rich guy,
Mhm.
would be earning zero. I mean, he
Mhm.
doesn't want to work anywhere. He's just sitting on huge pile of cash
Mhm.
and other wealth. So he's just using it, maybe rent or something. So that, okay, income that you can. So it's not employment. It's maybe some sort of a asset that he's getting returns on. So that,
Yeah.
how do we add that
Mhm.
into the equation?
That's a good question. I think we're looking at probably like a net worth of an individual, right? And I don't know if there's any data like that where for a large population. You mean you have like people individuals having their net
Yeah,
worth
yeah.
evaluated. But from a population level, I don't know if we have like data source on that. So we have to work with what the numbers that we do have. Let's actually do one thing. Let me just
think
like ask Bing, like to give stats on the unemployment in
I
India.
think the criteria again we can draw is his willingness to work. So if he's actively seeking work and not getting, like, so
Not getting job in the market.
yeah.
But
I guess that
voluntarily, like this is why many countries are voluntarily, like they can get unemployment benefits. Like sadly, we don't, like, so that they can get the statistics from that. But our unemployment sector is really like I don't know, no one like
Okay, you know what?
has to
It's really becoming the kind of like a issue in itself in defining unemployment.
okay.
Let's just look at like what is the standard definition of unemployment.
Okay.
Individual is not employed and is seeking employment cannot find work. Unemployment is a key indicator of health of an economy. And I've asked for the unemployment statistics in India. Basically, as of June 2024, the unemployment rate in India was 9.2%, a significant rise from 7%. I mean, it's kind of like, is it 9.2% of the entire population, or is it 9.52% of the working age population?
Whatever it may be, like I just want to say one thing.
Mhm.
Can I say? Like,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think like I have like a decade of experience working in like a publicity company. Like,
Mhm.
I think the main reason for like unemployment is I think India missed the industrialization cycle that many countries have gone through. Like you can see many Western countries, that experienced rapid industrialization, like, and therefore they were able to prop up their economies. Whereas we came very late to the party. By that
See,
I mean after China, had dominance, and now like,
personally,
many people, we are begging for foreign investment who cannot like we don't have capacity to
no, I personally
manufacture
feel like these
anything.
are. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
So I personally feel like these are things that honestly are not productive in looking at as a reason, because like what does it mean by late industrialization? Like I feel like it doesn't matter what happened, what is the reason for it. We need to look at like what are the things that we need to do to fix the problem from where we are right now. I feel like that is the more critical focus that we should take. And from this perspective, right? Let's say it's a 9.2%, and I'm going to assume that what this is like a working age population, right? Obviously, you're not going to count children in counting this percentage. So, what is the 9.2%? Is it
But
the
on the
No, but
I
what I mean by that is like no, like the second part is like now we have understood that there is a huge potential in like setting up manufacturing industries, which like for example what we majorly import pharmaceuticals is, and
True. So I would
it takes
I would like to point out that we have to understand the history, because in order you can unless once you diagnose the issue, that's when you can look for a cure. So yeah, I agree to the point that yes, we miss the industrialization age, the our opportunity, but not on the Western that time. That happened long back during the colonial period, but the recent Eastern, all the factories shifting to China in 1990s, that we missed badly. So due to so we took the LPG reforms lightly. We didn't take it due to vote that this stuff. But China took an aggressive move, opened up its borders for new investments. I think that's when we missed the bus.
Yeah, like we can also like look at other kinds of reasons. Personally, when I look at it, like I feel like unemployment is because of outdated education systems. which is not really training you for anything useful. They don't have like vocational education. There's no emphasis on vocational education. All the people who are like, in vocational jobs, these are people who have learned outside of the education system.
That is another thing. Like, I the vocational degrees are really seen like subpar, like the whole perception of them, like like everyone wants to either they believe they want to get a STEM degree or something, and and this is a reason we are unable to set up any high functioning industries because people consider them to be subpar. They're not even paid well, except
But
some.
when we talk about this, we are talking about the people who are in the, let's say, middle class or the upper middle class people. If we go on the lower, like what we say, lower class people, they themselves know they are not very good at education. So the only thing they know is ki they can get a job through doing some vocational course such as what we say, mechanical or some nurse course. So for them, it is actually useful, but they are not finding any what we say opportunity to get those courses done.
When I look at the things, right? For example, it says 9.2%, and what does this mean? What does it translate to on the ground? On the ground, this is like a large number of youth who may or may not be qualified, but they don't have anything to do for money. So it's a lack. It's an issue of supply and demand. So I attribute a lot of the problems to lack of employers. We have like too many job seekers, but not job creators. So this is something that I would say is like one of the primary actionable, pieces of insights. Because like now, if you want to like, solve this problem, we need to basically create job creators. How do we create job creators? That is what I would say we should look into.
I come from Telangana. You might know it, right?
Yeah.
So what my state it is like the fast-paced setting up industries, single window or something, and they set up a lot of startups. I think it is a good step forward. I think because there's a huge barrier to setting up any kind of even like a 10 people organization because of the paperwork and regulations, and you have to ease up that. Once you ease up that, I've seen many even like small startups get funding easily because the people see value in them.
Yeah. So
but not many states are doing that. Like very only not many because it's like I don't want to blame corruption, but many people are like they put barriers so that they can profit off.
No, I think things are changing a lot. I feel like a lot of governments, a lot of local governments are stepping up their startup industries. And actually, there are very encouraging numbers across the board. Even in Tamil Nadu, we have like a lot of initiatives by the government to emphasize on mass entrepreneurship. Actually, they're looking at this as a way to solve unemployment thing, because like they want to create large numbers of entrepreneurs who will become job creators.
Yeah.
And they can solve the problem of unemployment.
We have like a lot of people who are experienced in their domain for like my seniors. They are 3 to 4 decades of experience. But the barriers itself like discourages them to set up.
But barrier can be capital as well, right? Like the people with skills are there, but the capital which comes from the foreign companies, let's say, is not able to come in due to the restrictions or the what we say.
I mean, as somebody who knows the market, right? I'll tell you something. I actually run a community called the Startup Club, and I know a lot of investors. I know a lot of VCs, and Shivakumar, can you hold on? Let me finish, and then you can speak. Okay, if you want to say something, just raise your hand, and then we'll go in order. Okay. So as I was saying, I know a lot of these VCs, and when I speak to them, and I relay a lot of the concerns of the founders, asking like how do they get funding, and every time these investors I speak to, like they say that there's too much money, there's just not enough like good ideas to invest in, because like a lot of like founders, they confuse product building to business building, and they don't have a lot of clue as to like how to actually build a business. And that's the reason why like there is not enough projects that investors want to fund. It's not that there is no money. It's just that there needs to be more maturity in the base of entrepreneurs that we are building. So we'll go one by one. Aniket, you want to go?
When VCs are saying there's too much money, when VCs invest, they try to invest in startups which will give them at least what we say, like 100x, or let's say for reasonable thing 50x returns on the investment. So the most of the startups which will start, not all of them are going to provide a returns of 50x. Some of them have a goal of just making some, let's say, 1 lakh rupees profit per month,
Yeah,
such kind of. But
these
for
are
these
like,
industries, the VCs won't fund them. Like the objectives, the people who are starting business is not of such a large scale, where VCs will see a long-term game in their business.
no, but from what I've heard, right, these are like kind of like misconception as well. We think that, but actually there are people who are looking to invest if they feel like an alignment in vision, right? They're happy to invest. I've also like met people who are like that, who are more open, and I think yeah. Anyway, this is like a tangential topic, but I think a lot of people are raising their hands. So Sandeep, you want to go next?
Yeah. So can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, Sandeep, go ahead. We can hear you, but it seems like very far away. Can you bring the mic closer?
I'm on my headset. I'll just speak for a while. If you are not able to listen, I'll switch to my phone.
Okay.
So currently we live in a globalized world. So I don't believe that we have an issue with funding. As Mr. Raghav has said, it's a misconception. And the spending power of Indians has been on the rise for a very long time. The problem is not the lack of jobs. The problem is the particular skills that people need to have to get those jobs. And I've seen multiple times in the employment industry, if you're an employer, you know that finding the right person, finding the right employee for your job is kind of getting harder and harder, especially in India, right? And the other thing is, if you live in a tier 2 or tier 3 cities, finding a good, talented, work ethic person to do your let's say plumbing, electrical, is a kind of a Mammothean task, right? How often do you find an electrician or a plumber who is very well versed in their jobs, other trade, right? Because they don't have any vocational education, they don't have they don't know the building codes. That's how the state of the Indian municipality and the housing system is. So the point is, people are ready to spend. I myself is personally, I'm willing to spend on a plumber or an electrician who is good enough to do what I'm asked to do, but they don't know that. And I'm sure every one of you have experienced this kind of situation in your life, even today. So there is a gap, right? Why people are not getting educated or trained for the things that actually has in demand, right? There is a lot of demand for it. The problem comes in with the attitude of the system itself. Like the education system is like, okay, there is a this is the education system that we still today have is from the 1920s, like in the industrialization of 1920s. They have been training, they have a system. Okay, we have to train some part of people so that they will do this kind of a job. They know what happens in 20 years. But we are in a world right now, we don't know what will happen in 2 months, right? That is how the technology has been evolving for a very long time. And most of you know that a lot of breakthroughs come from Western countries like Europe.
See, you're talking about a very specific segment of employment. Not everybody needs to be at that forefront. Okay, we just need people who have enough to do. It's kind of like absurd that we live in a country where there's so many problems, and we don't have enough people who look at those as opportunities to create businesses. If you do that, right, we are going to develop as a nation, and also there is not going to be an issue of unemployment, because people who are solving those problems will definitely employ people, and there is a lot of talent. Okay, it's not like there is a lack of talent in India. There's a lot of talent. It's just that there is not enough for them to grow, because sometimes talent does take exercise of that talent to grow, right?
Yes.
So I do see the lack of jobs as a issue, as a significant issue. in them not progressing further. But Antriksh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think one of the major reasons for high unemployment is could be the most of the people are going for government jobs. So if you see people like coming from tier two or tier three cities, they are wasting their time preparing for government job, going for UPSC coaching and SSC coaching. So I think that's not their mistake. That's the mistake of society because from where uh, their perception is coming from that if they crack the government job, they can get a aura at they like they can create a aura around us and job security will be there. So I think that could be the one of the major reason. And second thing is we are still following the same education pattern degree like BSc, BBA, BCom is still existing, and that is not giving the that is not providing the market demand. That is not giving the what market actually need for. Like I'm studying in Bangalore, and my I've seen like colleges. I don't want to name the colleges, but still they are admitting 10,000 people, and they are graduating with no jobs just because they are doing the uh, ordinary ordinary degree. So yeah, that is from my side.
Okay. Suryansh, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, so just want to touch upon the topic which was brought about regarding China doing really well in the 90s, 80s, and all right. So you kind of look at it, China kind of built its economy by focusing heavy on manufacturing and being the export hub of the world in a way, right? And in the process, it also kind of devalued its currency and kind of made sure that the exports will be really lucrative. And they also built out their supply chain that way, right? So even during COVID, if we see, like when companies did find that reliance on China wasn't, it was a risky move, but they could not move completely, even though they are moving into other countries like India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and so on. But it's kind of happening slowly, and we don't have that infra, and it will take definitely a couple of years to build that level, right? So that is one. Our strength has been exporting IT services, right? Which is where Bangalore became the IT hub. And the difference that I personally think is that it kind of was help improving mainly on the white collar job side, right? And manufacturing side is where I think someone had made a point before. That is the bus we kind of lost, but in that way, China was kind of doing well. That is where, as a country, we should definitely focus on and build those infrastructure. Other thing that I think you mentioned, right? That money is definitely there and good ideas and good founders. That is the need of the hour. But honestly, if you really think about it, solving for unemployment for the entire country will not be directly solvable by startups, right? Maybe in the long run, like we see a lot of startups coming in 5, 10 years down the line, it will improve, etc. In general, when a lot of the startups which focus on is, you call it the multiple categorization of looking at citizens, right? So there's India 1, India 2, India 3. So typically the top Indians are the richest Indians, kind of for whom majority of the apps, product side and service side, people who are interested in building and where the money also is there to invest is for the top 30 million Indians, right? And ultimately the issue kind of comes to what is the per capita income of the country as well as various cohorts where all the people are lying, right? So that is a nuance there that I just want to bring about, that if you really want to solve at a grassroots level, we have to think about the India 2 and India, whatever classification at various strata of economy, which is where the government has to kind of plug in and kind of make it lucrative for FDI also to kind of pump in, because FDI investments are also for the last, it's not really increased as much as they should, right? Over the last, if you look at last 10 years. So definitely we have the talent. Infra is something which needs to be pumped in, and capital is there, but we definitely need more of it. So yeah.
So I want to say a couple of things about what you just said.
Mhm.
See, the thing is that I think there is a predefined idea as to what entrepreneurship is. People just think that you're building an app. That's what startups do. It's like that is like a very wrong idea. I think that there are a lot of startups that have nothing to do with technology. There are like core innovative practices applied in non-tech sectors as well. For example, you can take a company that is building like apparel or something. If they include like a certain innovation in it, they can qualify as a startup. It's not like and also the second thing is that you made it sound like, you know, we are looking at employment at startups. I'm looking at employment as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship itself is as a mode of employment, where you have like a society that is filled with like a massive numbers of entrepreneurs, each delivering value to the society and earning their living through that. It's not like if, like, you know, out of like 100 people, if like 50 people become entrepreneurs, it's not like all 50 of them, you know, like it's not like the rest of the 50 of people are just going to be unemployed. They are going to be employed by the other people. And also they took these 50 people who started like entrepreneurship, they took themselves out of the unemployment pool as well. So that is how you multiply the gains from
No, I
entrepreneurship.
completely agree. I completely agree with what you're saying. I was just saying that from a investor, what VCs kind of look for is things that scale, right? And you can always build businesses, right? One definitely
Yeah.
is, as we have more number of entrepreneurs, even if they're small and medium businesses, that also will empower the country as a whole, right? What I was
Yeah.
talking about, the point that you made on investments, and VCs typically look at things which scale really fast and where
Yes.
technology does come in one form or the other, right? So that was the main.
And you know, VC is not the only avenue to, you know, like fund your business. There are a lot of businesses that are bootstrapped, and you don't have to like please an investor to get there. It's not like, you know, you have to have like the blessings of an investor to actually make a business. You can build a business with, like, you know, smaller investments coming in from whoever you know, or like whoever you're able to convince. And there are a lot of people with a lot of money who are looking to actually, you know, like at least, like, you know, throw it at something and see if it sticks. You know, like that's kind of attitude that a lot of investors have too. They want to, like, you know, take risks. So that's a really different conversation. But I think that eventually, like, you know, entrepreneurship is going to be a solution for a lot of people, and a lot of people are going to see it as being an accessible solution to them rather than it being accessible only to the top of the, you know, economic food chain.
Yep, no, I agree.
Yeah. And
Can I
Shreyas, I
ask,
think, yeah.
when we say bringing on startups will automatically create employment, like are we assuming that when startups are created, employment will be automatic? The
No,
problem of
actually, see,
employment will be
the larger the number of startups that come up, the larger the success threshold also. Because, like, it's only, like, you know, 5% of the startups that are formed that actually succeed. The rest of the 95% fail. And they either improvise and pivot and change their strategy and try to succeed, or they just like give up and go back to their employment, right? So it doesn't matter that only 5% succeed, but the larger the number of that total number of startups that are being created, the larger that 5% is going to be. And even if 5% of the startups are going to succeed, they are going to employ a certain number of people, and also they created wealth, right? And so they're going to spend that. So it is going to be economically good overall, and that spending can create extra jobs elsewhere, right? So overall, it is a net positive to emphasize on entrepreneurship.
But when we say the startups are created, we are implying the jobs will be created, right? The demand for jobs will go up, but the
Yes.
supply for those jobs will be like, does the supply for the demand for jobs that have gone up, does it exist? Like the most of the people are already like underskilled, we say.
Oh, you mean like
Then the
from the supply end, like other people
yeah,
qualified enough to take the demand? See,
yeah, the problem is from the supply.
it's honestly, like, this is an absurd thing to say, because, like, you know, we are the nation that is like exporting talent throughout the world. We don't have an insufficiency of talent. Okay, it's just that they are leaving the country because we don't have good enough options right here. So it's not a question of, like, you know,
So-
whether there are people. There are definitely people. We just have to
Raghav,
make
I
it
think
appealing for them.
I have
No,
to
I think
disagree with that.
yeah, yeah. Go on.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the talent, that is a very, very small amount of people, like 1%, even less than 1%. We look at the people that we are sending out to the rest of the world and think that who are remaining in India are like they are the same. No, they are not.
No, I'm saying that they wouldn't have to go to other countries if we had the opportunities to exercise those talents. It's just that we don't. A lot of people go because, like, they want to, like, you know, be at the forefront, and we don't have those things happening right here. If it did, they'd be staying back here, and they would have a competitive advantage to our economy, because
But-
they're not adding that to their economy.
But
Yeah.
those things that are happening on the forefront would happen here only if the educational system or the was
No, why is
or
that? Because see, the thing is that you see like some of these startups. Actually, I was recently at the startup TN event in Madurai. This was a state level government organized event, and I met this guy. This guy is like I think he's in his 30s, mid 30s, and he's building the world's first space refueling station. Okay, this is an
okay.
Indian startup that is building
Yeah.
like a space satellite refueling station, where because like a lot of satellites they only have like sufficient power on board to have communication uh, operational. That's why like satellites go out of commission after some time. It's because there is no mechanism to refuel those satellites once they're put in orbit. So he's building a company that is going to be refueling satellites, and they're going to make a lot of money. And this is the only company that's doing that, and that's happening from a tier 3 city in Tamil Nadu. Okay, there are people like this. We have so much talent. A lot of people
Yeah.
are they're working in Teslas, and they're working in all those places because we haven't made it easy enough for them to build businesses right here. And that is changing too. We have a lot of like high end startups that are coming in India, and the problem is that you don't get to hear about these stories in popular media because we only have these like drum roll of like India being inferior or something like that. It's not. It's very very vibrant, and there are a lot of like high end high tech startups that are happening right here.
Raghav, I have a counterpoint to what you just said right now.
Mhm.
So I understand what you're saying, that there's a lot of talent which is doing great stuff in India, right?
Mhm.
But I think at a larger scheme, when we are looking at the country's unemployment level, just want to take a step back there. There are a lot of reports which come around, whether it is in newspapers, etc. That if you look at, let's say, engineering jobs, right? If you just Google now, engineering jobs, 94%. I've just Googled just now, 94% of engineering graduates are not fit for hiring, says this IT
Yeah,
study.
absolutely. That
So
is true.
basically, that is the overall point. I think what probably what Ankit was thinking of, was talking about, because even I think that there will be a pocket of, let's say, the top 1% who have the talent, and given the right resources, they are really going to do really well. But what about the 70-80% who are not skilled? Either they did not have the talent. How do you define talent? I think everybody
No,
can.
it's basically an erasure of like cognitive abilities
Can I
that
just
happens.
finish once?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just finishing the point here. Basically, one is, of course, everybody has the capability of learning. Maybe their skill set or their aptitude might lie in different things. But in general, the current education system, definitely, if we improve it and we kind of help target the right people to the right avenues, right channels, that is going to help out. Because 80% people, if they are not fit, maybe they had aptitude for something else, or if they had aptitude for engineering, the right kind of education wasn't given. Even if you look at 12th standard, 10th standard, there are so many people who aren't even able to kind of they are passing the exam, but the kind of knowledge retention that they have is really really bad, right?
Yeah, got your point, Suryansh. I think I want to let some of these people who have been raising their hands for a long time. Shreyas, go ahead.
Yep. So I think the issue, the larger root cause here is we are in an unlucky generation, I would say, in the history of humanity, for example. Not only India, the world per se. The reason is, the unemployment is not a problem to us only, to Indians only. It's across the globe. Uh, Never in the history of humankind, people switched jobs in the same maybe
Frequency.
decade, for example, and forget the job, people change role also now. So if you look at my grandfathers, for example, the 3 4 generation all did agriculture, and that's how it's been, any profession you take. But now you maybe for first 4 years you will be some individual contributor, some sort of thing, and then you will have to keep moving. That's how the job market is, either due to automation, AI, whatever. The efficiency, the product, basically the value creation that human labor can offer is reducing. So that's the major problem, first thing. And second thing is the massive rise in population in India. I, so it which they say is an advantage. I think it happened at the wrong time for us. So if this population boom had happened maybe 20 years ago, that would have been a good opportunity, I feel. But it's happening now, where there is less addition a human labor can offer. I think that's a major point, that India being unlucky. The other point I would bring is the stigma that individual people hold. So so like I said, this is an era we have to move jobs, uh, one at a time. I mean, we don't know what job will exist tomorrow. So if you look at 20 years ago, we never knew there's something called a YouTube content creator. So, but now it's like a niche job, and you get paid, some of them, for example. So we don't know down the line in 10 years, we don't know what sort of job will exist. So that's why the education system can't keep up with the pace. The teachers are not sure what to teach, for example, and whatever they teach, whatever they thought, they learned during their time is not relevant anymore. And that's one thing. And yeah, people being stigmatized isn't, say, for example, domestic help, for example, that job does offer good pay. In some sectors, if you maybe like work at some nice place around, if you look for opportunity, you do get it pays more than entry level software employee, for example, more than 20K. And even in IT, for example, support was more stigmatized, and developers were looked at, oh God, they get high paid and stuff. And I see that in my team, the around as well. That, but on the contrary, support are paid well, more than 90% of the software developers I've seen. So that's because of the stigma. So they think, yeah. And the third point is so we think of making products we thought of bringing global investment, but we didn't think of making products global. We are thinking of selling it to the Indians there, and where half the Indians can't afford, for example, they can't afford whatever you make a product as. So you will have to think of making a product that's global. And when you bring global investment, you'll have to think of making a product global. So yeah, these are my.
Anyway, okay. By the way, just so everybody knows, like, we are not having this session where we are sharing each other's perspectives on things. We are trying to arrive at an actionable plan, which means like the focus of the discussion has to be emphasized on what are we doing about this, right? And I do have a disagreement about this whole framing of the situation. I don't think that we're unfortunate in the age that we're living in as human species. I mean, honestly, it's an absurd statement to make, because like right now we have a lot more freedom as to what we do with ourselves than we ever did in the past. And you're looking at it from a perspective of financial security or employment security. But honestly, right now we have a lot more freedom as human beings. I mean, human beings are not meant to be subjugated into economic labor or something like that, where we have a security and we're able to do things. We thrive when we have the doors open to do whatever the hell we want. And now is the time when we can do more than we've ever been able to as a human species. So fundamentally, we are the most fortunate generation of human beings ever to exist. Okay, second thing is India's population can definitely be either a liability or an asset, depending on how we do go about things. And that's an entire point of this session, where we're looking at how do we fix the situation in such a way that we are taking that unemployed youth and turning them into an asset rather than liability. And the way that I think we should proceed is basically what do we do with the unemployed youth and how do we employ them? And there are going to be different layers of the society. There are people who are unemployed, but there are also people who are highly qualified employees. But if they decided to take a shift to being entrepreneurs, they probably would multiply and create more job opportunities. This is my strategy in my mind. But quickly, I want each of you to take maybe 1 minute to say whatever you guys were going to say, and also keep it to the point. Let's not go into tangential musings about the problem. So Vaibhav, please go ahead.
Hello everyone.
Yeah.
So according to me, I think awareness is the major factor that comes into the picture when picking up a career, and ultimately that leads to a better employment. So what I feel is people at the age of 15, while picking up their career, are not much aware about what to do and what not to do. So of course there is an internet. There are so many diverse choices available, and we can fetch it from the internet what kind of choices are available for us. But if we see there is so much influence, let's say it could be personal influences in people around us or the environment we are born and brought up in, or the major factor which influences is the coaching institutes. So that is what I feel is fundamentally ruining the career of the people. So they are just here to make the business out of it, and primarily people get two choices only, as in science, commerce, or even if you take science, then either engineering that traditional concept, as in why we are failing to pick the diverse choices in the careers. Like even if someone picks up engineering, everyone thinks that they need to pick computer engineering. No one thinks that I need to go and pursue ocean engineering or something that is totally unconventional. And of
Sure.
course, there would be of course, there would be employment available as well related to unconventional choices, but people are not aware. So I think what we can do is just to make people more aware. We can conduct, let's say, unbiased and effective career aptitude test, uh, like at multiple levels, like at the age of 15 when someone completes the 10th standard.
You
Then,
know,
yeah.
see, I feel like a lot of people have pointed out the ineffective educational practices as being a source, like a source of this problem, and I completely agree. And I think the solution is not more tests and all this. Like, I I also have to mention that I have like a little bit of background in neuroscience, and I know how like the human mind evolves and like how it functions. And the way you make somebody good at something is not by doing tests and all these other things. You make them good at something by making them do it over and over again. So if you want them to like be problem solvers or be like initiators, your educational practice has to train them in that activity over and over again. And we can easily do that if you refine the educational practice, where like you have like kids as young as 12 years old taking on projects and like solving them and building things, and they can add it to their portfolio. And that's actually one of the things that I wanted to discuss in the next month's brainstorming session, where we'll talk about how to solve the educational crisis. But I think if you manage to make the educational practices more, make them more adept at like actions and like planning and solving problems, that is how you'll solve this problem. Because like once you put them out in the real world, they'll figure out a way to do something out of what they see around them to make a living. They're not going to sit there and wait for instructions, because that's what we are training kids to do these days in the name of education. You're sitting them down and then like passing on instructions and then like training them on being obedient in following instructions. Now if you remove the instructions, they don't even know what to do. This is the fundamental problem. This is what unemployed youth consists of. These are people who are clueless about what to do with themselves, because they need somebody to tell them what to do, because that's all they've been trained for.
Yeah.
Ami, you want to go ahead next?
I'm still pending. Can I just continue for a couple of minutes?
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe a minute.
Yeah, a minute. Yeah, I won't take much time. So yeah, by career aptitude test, what I mean is that the test that conducts to analyze what kind of person you are, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. So that way, it will help to pick something where you will really excel, or where you will really outdone everyone else. So that is what I mean by career aptitude test, and it should be conducted at different levels, as I said earlier. So it's like introspection only, but you're doing this through some questionnaire. But it should be totally unbiased and effective, taking into consideration all the diverse choices that we have in real life. And yeah, there is one question as in to everyone. What do you think about bridge courses that are currently available in the market? So many people are coming up with the bridge courses as in product management or any new field that pops in, and everybody is coming up with bridge courses and everybody is pursuing it. But if we see, initial people are getting the jobs, but after that, people are just enrolling because it becomes a FOMO just to pursue it. And like there comes a point where it goes to a saturation, so you don't get a job. So yeah, just what are your thoughts on bridge courses? Are they really helping in solving the employment issue? Or thank you.
Okay, thanks, Vaibhav. Yeah, Ami, do you want to go next? Ami, are you saying
Hey
anything, because
Raghav,
we can't hear? Yeah.
Raghav, can I ask you a question? Like,
Yeah.
since your background cognitive science, how effective or how accurate are these aptitude tests? Like, even I have been advised to take a aptitude test, but for some reason it did not seem to, what we say, fit right to me. Like
See,
it would
I
not be
don't, I
accurate.
mean, I don't want to comment on the specific test that you took or something, but I generally like, this is my personal opinion. I don't want you to take it as like some kind of an expert opinion either,
Yeah,
because this is
yeah,
just
yeah.
like my personal opinion. I feel like a lot of tests are limited in what they can measure. If you, because like what you consist of as a human being, your different dimensions of intelligence, they cannot all be like measured in a standardized test. And there is very, very specific modalities of your cognitive intelligence like that these aptitude tests measure, and they're not sufficient in like giving an overall picture, but they may be very suited for very specific activities or specific narrow domains of application. But in general, right, I feel like there is a lot of large spectrum in which human beings can express their intelligence. But yeah, Ami, I think we can hear you finally. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi Raghav, it's me Janway. I just joined with another
Okay.
speech today. I really think what the main cause of problem of all this is shyness. Indians are shy. That's why this all problems occurs. If you really think, we only follow instructions and all. Yes, this all point are accepted. But why? Because we are shy.
No, that is, see, what you're saying is true, but that could just be solved by different educational practices. That we already have that point here. Okay, so if young kids are given an opportunity to express themselves on a repeated basis, right, they wouldn't be shy, because like they're raised to sit in classrooms and quietly just listen to everything that the teacher tells them. Right, that is the problem. That's the reason why they're shy. Right?
It's a very generalized statement to kind of say Indians.
I know Indians are shy. Yeah, that is a generalized statement, but it is true though.
1 point. I'm saying, how can you generalize 1.3, 1.4 billion population? Indians are shy compared to Americans, maybe, but it is not solving anything. Americans are loud, Indians are shy. It's a stereotype which not cause anything.
Isn't shyness just like a phase in life? Like everyone is shy at some point in life. It's not like they're shy their whole life.
No, actually,
like eventually,
culturally, right? It is a true observation that Indians are shy. They are very, very conflict avoidant in general. Like I'll give you an example. Like most places, right? If there was a lack of proper services somewhere, right, people will raise a complaint. But in India, like people just they are, especially the people who haven't had much life experience, right? If they are in college age or like school age, they've never really had an opportunity to raise their concern or speak their mind. And that's one of the reasons why I do feel like Indians do come across as shy.
Instead of shyness, it is like a, what do you say, chalta attitude. Like
that is also there. Yeah. That is also there. Yeah.
I think it's more of conformity to the group. So that attitude is there in Asians as well, but that doesn't explain why India is not entrepreneurship.
Correct.
For example, because Asian cultures you look at, they're far more better. Look at Japan, look at Singapore, for example. So that is not the cause.
And even if Indians are shy and we are talking about Indian jobs and a supply point of view, then it will kind of get normalized in a way. We are competing with global jobs when Indians are shy and it's a social job like consulting. That definitely will have Indians on the back foot there. But if Indians are shy, then but yeah.
But who really does see no employer sees whether his employee is shy or not when trying to hire him. He looks at his skills instead of shyness or some other quality.
See, that for an employee that works out actually. I would rather have a shy and obedient and fearful employee than somebody who's having their own mind. So they make great employees, but the problem is that these people don't make good employers or entrepreneurs, or because their shyness.
I don't agree on this, but yeah, go on. Sorry, continue.
No, but the shyness is not like a personality trait. It's more like a lack of initiative.
So shyness is very different. See, when you're comparing shyness to lack of initiative, they are very different things.
I know, but I think that's the quality that we are trying to emphasize with shyness. I wouldn't use the word shyness.
Exactly. Then I agree with you. Yeah. It's a non-enterprising behavior. That is something, if you're saying that, then I agree with you. But yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. They're just they're not trained in being proactive.
Non-agency, can we say?
Exactly.
Indians do not take Indians do not take agency.
Exactly.
Again, not
rephrase it.
Initiative.
See, that's exactly true, because human beings, right? Besides food, water, and other essentials, right? We need a certain level of freedom to exercise and grow. That is one of the qualities that is unique to human beings, is that we have a potential to grow in our wisdom. And the unfortunate reality is that most Indians do not have access to exercise that wisdom because they grow up in absence of choice. They don't have opportunities to exercise their agency. And so they're not good at like exercising their agency or like making decisions and growing from it. That's one of the reasons why they don't stand up and speak their mind, because they don't have much to say in their minds, because they've not had enough life experience. Most of these people like go to school and then like their tuition, and then they have like a little bit of free time where they watch like Instagram and YouTube and all that, and they don't have any room to exercise their own agency. And that's one of the key reasons why we don't have as many entrepreneurs as we should be having, given the number of problems that are to be solved, because they've never had the room to exercise their agency. That's how I would say it. I would say,
I think you should also call risk averse in a way, because
yeah,
we don't have as much risk taking appetite compared to the West, or I don't know. That is what I feel.
Why are we saying we do not have sufficient room? Like agency isn't agency something that one should come up with him? Like, or how do we say?
see,
Like खुद
when I say
करना चाहिए.
room to exercise their agency means, for example, right, for a child who's going to school at 8 a.m. and then coming back from school at like 5 p.m. and then going to their tuition classes until like 9 p.m. and then going home and eating dinner and sleeping, where is there room to exercise any kind of agency? They are all like put on a certain predefined track by somebody else, either their parents or their educational instructors or whatever. And they are just going and like, walking on this predefined path. They've never had a chance to make a decision. So how are they going to operate in the real world? By the time they're 22 or 23, right, they are primed to like, only like follow the line that is drawn for them by somebody else. So they're very, very, good, highly qualified to be employees. Because like when you enter an employment, it is employers, responsibility to set the rules, and they just have to like follow that and complete things.
Raghav, one counterpoint, Japan's, if you look at compare it to Japan, right?
Mhm.
Japan is in fact probably even more rule oriented compared to India, or maybe similar.
Yeah.
But I think maybe the entrepreneurship will be lesser there. But since we're talking about unemployment here, unemployment of Japan, I just checked, is around 3%, right? So
No, that's because their population density is very different from ours.
I'm saying there'll be other factors for sure, but I'm saying
Mhm.
just purely even if somebody is following the rules, and if you have decent jobs at that scale, that can also solve for an unemployment issue. But if you are talking about entrepreneurship, definitely then that is where agency will come in.
Yeah.
Can I double click on the education practice point? Like I have some solution type thing.
Okay, go ahead, Aniket.
When we say education practices, I guess there should be the free competition should be allowed in the education practices. If let's say if some guy who is like, let's say person like you, who is entrepreneur wants to start a college, the licensing of college is such a guarded thing that only the colleges that come up in our city are mostly by the politicians only, politician with some affiliation, and the main incentive for them is to just make money. So if we are able to make make it easy for starting a college or our own education institute, that could bring about a change. Because if we say the difference between a good college and a bad college, if we are talking about on a generalization, a good college is mostly owned by private people who have other means of other sources of making money, whereas most of the bad colleges which one can see in my city at least, they are mostly affiliated with the political parties or the people who are or the political persons whose main source of making money is through colleges. Like let's say
Yeah.
the top universities in our country, let's say Jindal or BITS, the owners of this university or other sources of making money, and college is just like some like what we say side thing instead of the college that I, I encounter in my city at least.
Yeah. No, understood. Yeah. By the way, like Anshul has been raising his hand for a long time. Anshul, do you want to go next? Anshul, you're on mute.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So please excuse me for I just want to bring the discussion to the baseline from where we started.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to really establish and understand what we are trying to discuss over here.
Yeah.
So with my discussion, with my understanding, what I think is we are trying to address and also understand the problem of unemployment in India.
Mhm.
So there are various reasons for this. A lot of them are historical, or a lot of them still exist now. So not so much we can do about the historical reasons. A few reasons that there are now could be government policies for an investment. There are again employers community in general. Employers community is less in India. Then there is also education system, and also the newly brought up topic about societal construct, that is like shyness, etc. That
Mhm.
we Indian people are. But from all these existing problems, I don't know like how much we have in control. Like as a, I was thinking this conversation as a perspective of what we as an individual, as a community, as a society, we can do something about
Yeah.
unemployment as a
You
problem.
know, actually, thanks for bringing this up, because like that's the core essence of this discussion, that we need to like look at what can we do as a society to solve this problem, and forget about like some of these things. Like these are like long-term solutions that we can't really do much about right now. So
Yeah,
I think, looking at like the problem, right? The youngest people who are looking at, like, for example, let's say that, anybody beyond 15 and 15 to 25, let's say, this is a very, very sensitive age group. And because 15 to, like, let's say 20 or something, these are people who are about to enter the job force, and the next, maybe like next few years. And then there are like people who are beyond 20, 25, something like that, who are maybe probably graduates, and they are unemployed, right? Now, if we have like a mechanism to, like, put these people on a fast track on becoming entrepreneurs, right? I mean, it's kind of like really hard to like make entrepreneurs out of like early 20 people, early 20-year-old youngsters, right? I think for that you have to have a predetermined, desire for it. You can't like train them at that level. But if you take some of these like younger kids, like 15 to, let's say, 20, you can maybe like, give them at least like 2 years of like, training them into like, working with startups, something like that, so that like you can fast track them into considering that as one of the options, like realistic options. Because a lot of people just don't consider that as an option, because they think it's too unsafe, and they don't know enough about what is possible if they do the right things. So I think that should be one of our key focuses, that we're focusing on these like 15 to 20-year-olds, maybe like college students, right? Predominantly college students who are who, if they receive the right kind of like guidance and experience, they can probably, like, by the time they graduate, they may start off with building a business rather than trying to seek employment.
yeah. So maybe quickly adding to that point. Yeah, I think the mentoring the college kids makes a lot of sense. Also, it would improve. I mean, because we cannot do so much about educational problem,
Mhm.
at least on our level as a community level. So we can maybe mentor these kids who are
Yeah.
still in colleges. This is how it will look like 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. If you go through this part or that part, if you want to pursue, let's say, entrepreneurship, these are the resources, these are the way you can move forward, etc. But also, um, on that key, what people like us, maybe who are still working, who have started working, and who maybe will who somehow want to like get into startups, like what about those people? And with that, I also wanted to ask one question. If it is too tangential, we can drop it, but I wanted to understand from you, Raghav, about how does let's say a spree of businesses entering a city, let's consider just a city, how does it like make it prosper? For example, hundreds of like almost close to thousand of restaurants open in my city. So how is it affecting the economy? I would like to know, like very briefly, if you can. Thanks.
See, well, what was the situation you're saying?
So after COVID,
Mhm.
around thousands of restaurants,
Mhm.
pubs, bars, or
Mhm.
cloud kitchens, this opened up
Mhm.
with a lot of inflation on food, but rest of the things remain the exact same. So there was a lot of employment, if you say in that way, but still the rest of the things in the city remain the exact same. The pollution, the kind of people, etc., the education and everything.
Mhm. Right. So what are you
So
asking me on this?
I wanted to ask you, how does this spree of one-sided businesses opening prospers, or in general, not even one-sided, but in general, how does this businesses prosper a city in what's the process?
See, for a business to prosper, right, there are two things that have to happen. One is that people are building businesses and they're offering services that people are paying for. So the quality of life of the people living in the society is improving, because obviously they're paying for it, they want it. So that is happening. And the second thing is like this circulation of money that's happening when you build businesses. So money has most amount of value when it's circulating in the economy, and it has to change hands. And that's what happens when you have successful businesses. You are basically like, circulating the money, and every time transaction happens, somebody or the other benefits, right? And also like you're also employing people as you do this.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Sandeep, I think you have your hand raised.
Yeah. So as you have discussed just right now, so it's a 50-50 problem, right? You have to solve the education system to solve the employment issue. And you have rightly pointed out that there is a group of the age group between 15 to 25, which is immediately ready to join the job force. And the future generations like between 5 and like 12 or 13 years old, right? Which they still have some space that we can squeeze in some education system changes. So if I'll just touch up on the solutions for education system, which is not the topic, but I just wanted to say that the fundamental issue with the education system is the segregation of age groups, right? The 12-year-olds, like let's say 7-year-olds have been with 7-year-olds. That the information transfer, the transfer of information and the experiences between the age groups is very critical for any understanding for the growing of the education itself, right? We are keeping 7-year-olds with the 7-year-olds who know exactly the same thing and who doesn't know exactly. They know everything. All 7-year-olds know the same thing, right? So they're not actually mutually learning with each other. So we can discuss more about this in the solving the education system itself. So when it comes to employment, right? I've been an entrepreneur for last 7 years, and I have employed more than 15 to 20 people since then. So the fundamental issue that I have seen for a very long time, even I have mentored a couple of startups in my own tier 2 cities. See, the thing is, they don't, we don't even know the problem that we are solving right now, right? And then we have to get in there, and then we have to understand what we are trying to solve. Let's say if I have to talk about a startup that is trying to do something about technology. The problem with that technology startups is we do not have that kind of a capacity to organize and make, let's say, 500 to 1,000 engineers. The institution, the fundamental institution of governing, not governing, let's say, um the capabilities of grabbing high talented, let's say, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, and set up a company. If I have to take an example, let's say take example of Aether, right? It's like an impossible company to exist, because in the context of India, the company shouldn't exist. But hats off to the founders that were able to pull it off. And it is not an easy task to do that in India. And it is very easy to set up a place where you have like all these engineering students coming through. And trust me, the employers who are giving them jobs, they know that whatever they've learned in their engineering and even in their schooling, they have no use of it. The only thing, the only way they are using the certificates that they have is as a filtration form of
Exactly. Yeah.
so they're using it as a filter, and then they will do their own training in house, right? That is what matters. And we might think that these people are just because they have talented from the colleges itself. No, they are not. It's just a filtration system. So if the employer themselves are taking the burden of training the people for the exact job they are doing it, isn't it? I'm not sure if it is a good thing or a bad thing. Is it a good thing if we backtrack them to the entire schooling? Like let's say if we have like 20 to 30 types of jobs that would create like 50 to 60% of job force for next 15 to 20 years. Are those industries aren't supposed to have more command on what curriculum that should go into the schooling and colleges that would beneficial to the, so that more people will be talent educated, like trained on the particular skills that they will be needed for the workforce that will be needed in the future.
That
See, I
is
think,
that. Yeah. Please
no,
go on.
see, the thing is that it's not about like what you learn. It's about like whether these kids are able to learn what they need to learn on their own. It's about like
Yes,
these are core
exactly.
competencies.
That is the education system that I didn't go much deep into it. What I'm trying to solve is the topic today is the employment, right? If I have to go about the education itself, of course, the main the main the thing that any education system should impart is the problem solving, in my opinion. And there are multiple other things that that come into play, like the family background and you see. I think 20 to 30% of education only happens in school. 70% of the education happens through society, through parents, through family, right? We learn a lot from the rest of the world that we live in, but a lot of emphasis is given on what we learn from the books, which is like a fixed curriculum. Mostly, most of the schools in India like teach math, sciences, and the basic things that you have to know about sciences and history, right? But they don't actually prepare you for the real world.
Yeah. No, I
So
completely agree with all this. See, I think that my approach in specifying this age group, right, the 15 to 22-year-olds, I actually
yeah,
I'm thinking of like something really very practical that we can do as like like lay citizens instead of like as like a government agency or something, because I don't want to like build some solutions that are idealistic. I want to do something practical. So actually what I
yeah,
was thinking is that one of the core things that I've seen from running a startup community is that a lot of people are more prone to like actually building something if they have exposure to other people who are doing the same. So what I
yes,
was thinking that we need to build a communities on the ground, communities of people who are a mix of like aspiring entrepreneurs and complete like like newbies who have never thought about entrepreneurship, and also
yeah,
people who are community like leaders in terms of like entrepreneurship. Like for example,
yes,
Sandeep here said that he has like 7 years of experience as an entrepreneur. He can come in as a mentor in one of those communities, and he can actually like show what they do, and that could inspire people to like actually aspire for that. And one of the things about kids is that I've actually interacted with a lot of kids because I work on a non-profit. That's my first company that I set up. It's basically a non-profit that works with underprivileged children to help them with education. So I teach coding to underprivileged children for free, and I've developed a system to do that. And one of the things that I notice about kids is that they usually want to be something that they've seen other people be.
yeah,
So
yeah, sure.
when you go to for example villages, right, they don't have access to a lot of these media, like like they don't watch YouTube and learn the world. They actually learn by
Yeah,
interacting with their
see,
family or a community.
for
Or
example, if I have to take the
Sandeep,
film
give me one
industry.
second, let me finish this.
Yeah, please, sure,
um,
sure, yeah,
so one of the things is, well, like, that I noticed is that especially when I go to villages, when I ask them what do you want to be, they say something like I want to be a plumber, electrician, auto driver, police inspector, bank manager, police, like like all these are the
yeah,
things that they say, because these are the kind of people that they've seen. They haven't had exposure to an entrepreneur or like a business person. So mixing this community itself can lead to a lot of like change in a cultural trend, because one of the things that we need to recognize is that there is a cultural problem of like
yes,
going after economically secure solutions rather than taking like an adventurous path, or like doing something that is risky but still potentially like multiple x rewarding than a secure thing. So yeah, that they can do cultural movement through the community building and mixing process. So I definitely want to explore that in one of the upcoming sessions. But I think, yeah, Sandeep, you want to go ahead?
yeah. But see, the mixing of cultures is good, but the exposure for a little bit of a time is could inspire you, but it probably cannot set a stage for your career. It could an individual can try, they could have resilience and they could finally do it, but the lot of career building happens at home, right? See, most of the actors' sons or daughters become actors because they have like, the people call nepotism is bad, but I'm not sure. I don't think so. But because see, the career their career has been built through the home. If let's say if someone has been born into a place where home where both of the parents are like, let's say you have said the very menial jobs, right? They could have an inspiration, but do they have the potential from the parents and the community and the society itself, so that they have that platform to go achieve what they are supposed to, what they are aspire to. So that's a big challenge, right?
Yeah, I mean, see, we can't go change things at home. Okay, so we can only do as general concerned citizens, right? We can only bring in change from the outside, and obviously we can also like have some kind of like a persuasive campaign to encourage people who are on the fence. I mean, we can't change everybody's mind, but we can change the people who are on the fence, convincing parents to like to maybe like allay some of their concerns regarding entrepreneurship as a career, because a lot of people have misconceptions, and
Yeah.
we can do some informational campaigns on that. But more importantly, I think one of the reasons why I was emphasizing on the community building aspect is that not everybody is at the same level. Like not everybody is like completely oblivious of entrepreneurship as a possibility. Some of these people are actually eagerly wanting to be an entrepreneur, but they just don't know enough to get started. And then there are some who are like doing small things here and there, and they already have a head start. So there are multiple levels at which people are. It's not like everybody's the same level of like being oblivious. So all we have to do is like building the community actually like accelerates whoever is on the right direction. So it'll bring the people who are completely oblivious to a point of like considering it as an option, and then it'll take people who have been looking at it as an option into the next step of like actually doing something about it, and then it'll take the people who are actually doing something about it to get to a point where they're doing it better. So you can have this like this is kind of an alternative educational setup where like people who are in the industry are coming in and they're imparting their wisdom, and then like they're basically influencing the next generation of people to do it better. So I think this is actually one of the key solutions that we can actually build and make an actionable impact on. Imagine if you had like micro hubs of like these communities, and you can have like a competitive landscape for these micro hubs, and then you can basically have like each community like sort of like thrive on its own unique potential, because like different regions have different strengths. So they can maybe like focus on maybe they can focus on like entrepreneurship opportunities that are exposed to their region. For example, maybe like somebody brought up Telangana as a thing. Maybe like they have a specific agricultural activity that they can capitalize on, and they can maybe like build a business out of that. Or maybe somebody else could be in a different region where there is a different opportunity that opens up, and they can maybe build a business out of that. It's not like everybody has to build like Silicon Valley type of products. We can all like build businesses out of like things that are basically like localized problems. If you can do it in a way that you are able to apply it in large regions, you can basically like, have a head start. So I think this community aspect is something that I'm really looking at, and also like creating micro hubs.
Can you tell more about your community, like which you run?
Yeah, so I run this community called the Startup Club. So just like how we have a debateclub.info, we have something called the Startup Club, and this one has a lot more people than what the Debate Club does. Right now we have about 5,000 people in the community, and we also have a Telegram group and a YouTube channel where we post our sessions and things like that. We also have conduct pitch workshops, and we conduct interviews of early stage founders. And people can also register themselves as talents who want to work at a startup, and also startups who are looking for talent can register here. And we are actually starting to do community events as well. Actually, one of the events that we did recently was this live event that we conducted at one of the universities here in Chennai. And we brought in like, some really cool people as speakers. So this was actually the Dean of Innovations at Sairam Institution. They actually have an innovations department, and he's the dean of that. And we also have some investors and like some corporate folks. And we had a live event, and we had a very, very interesting interaction with these people, and we started talking about what are the different ways in which we can build up Chennai as an ecosystem. Actually, the title of this event was the title of the event was How to Make Chennai the Next Big Startup Hub in India. And as we were discussing that, we were also talking about like how do we actually create micro hubs of like communities. And that's actually one of the reasons why I brought up this topic, because I wanted to have like a greater discussion on how do we expand this as a framework. And one of the things that I thought of doing was basically create this like landscape of like competitive but collaborative ecosystem of micro hubs. where you have like micro communities of people who are in various levels of entrepreneurship coming and exchanging knowledge. And if you think about it, like traditionally India used to have these like Gurukul type of system where somebody
Yeah, right,
who is like adept at something becomes the guru of that skill or the craft, and then they impart it in whichever way they choose, instead of like being like a contract teacher who's supposed to follow a syllabus and timeline and do things that they don't have any agency over, right? So you have like people who have gained real world wisdom coming and imparting that in their own way. And I think we need to bring that back into the system where like people register as like mentors or like uh veterans of the craft, and then like they basically come and like impart their wisdom onto people. We need to have those kind of like public discourse happening. Creating room for public discourse and exchange of knowledge and wisdom to strengthen the startup ecosystem.
How do you think you're making these micro communities? Like, would they be self-organizing or how?
Now that's a very good point. I think we should probably discuss that in the next session, because like I
Can
want to
I?
close it at 8:30.
Okay. Can I just
And
give you a suggestion?
yeah, go ahead.
There was this blogger on Substack, I guess, Slate Codex something. I don't remember the name exactly. Slate Star Codex something. But he has this interesting thing on it. He has this like world map, and on the world map, people like there is option they can start a community or join a community. If you start a if you create a community on a map, you would have this location, and people around the region can choose to join that community and get in that group, and it will be self-organizing. Okay, like they will make a event in a month or anything. वैसा instead of a top-down approach के ऊपर से like people will decide कि ये date पे होएगा. Instead of that, people in the micro community itself will decide कि like कभी होएगा from the people from the nearby region, they can just go on the map and see कि like yeah, there is this community near me and they can join it.
Okay, can you tell me more about this? Like, what is it? Can you find out and share the links in the chat or
Okay,
something?
sure. Yeah, sure.
And we look into that and see like how we can leverage existing tools to sort of like do these things better. But I've already started doing it. I've actually I've created a couple of like chapters of these communities, and that's a kind of like exciting thing about this brainstorming, is that we can actually do some of these things and figure out what happens, as an experiment rather than just like do theoretical armchair planning.
So from where are the most of the people in community that start up from Mumbai or Bangalore or Chennai? Like
Chennai.
Oh.
Because I'm based in Chennai, right? So I actually and also like logistically and strategically, Chennai is a wonderful place to start this doing this. Actually, I told you, I went to the Tamil Nadu Startup TN event, and that was in Madurai. And basically, what I saw was that there is a lot of thirst for opportunities and like resources in tier 2 and tier 3 cities in Tamil Nadu. And I imagine that is the case with every other state, where like people in the rural areas, they're not like dumb or something, like it's not like somehow urban people are just more sophisticated and more intelligent or something. There are people who are really smart in the rural areas. They just don't have the opportunities, same level of opportunities as people in cities. And I see a lot of like thirst among those people. They want to like establish a certain base in their own communities. They don't want to have to travel to Chennai or Bangalore to succeed. So what I thought was that like if you actually create a competitive ecosystem of like these hubs, where they can bring in the resources to their particular communities and start doing something, and all we have to do as a community is basically to provide them the resources and the know-how to organize those same things. And we can maybe use one of these tools that you suggested to figure out like how do we set up
it was not a tool, it was their concept. Like that's how they organize their community.
Whatever it is, you share the link on the WhatsApp group so that we can have a look at it next time. Anything else from anybody else?
Can I suggest a point to emphasis on your startup thing, like in the rural place? You should I think there should be a course or some like a course that kids should go through on how to learn things. Like there is most of the people, even I myself, had not figured out how to learn things in a more efficient way, like using Reddit or how to prompt ChatGPT in a more better way, like in a way that it can give more definite answer or more accurate answer.
Mhm.
This is something I struggle with, how
I
to
mean,
learn
this
things.
is, I think this is like a general thing that we have to implement as a society for education. But yeah, I mean, I think that is different. I mean, we can definitely have those kind of workshops through the hubs as well. Like, you know, that you have like a alternative approach to how do you actually learn and be effective. And we're going to close in a few minutes. I do want to ask others, like, you know, what do you guys think about the session? Was it effective? Do you think that we should do something else to sort of like summarize what we can do?
Not working. Could you please check the chat box?
Ami, are you speaking? Or...
Yeah, my mic is not working properly. Could you please refer the chat box?
Yeah. I mean, I saw that. It's I saw that. What about others? Do you guys have anything to add before we close?
I think it was a great session, Raghav.
Yeah.
We do get on and off the topic a couple of times, but in general, it was a very interesting session.
Yeah.
Kindly share the link or like whatever it is that you have for the group that you have created, you know, the Telegram or whatever.
Oh yeah, this one, the startup club. Okay. Yeah, I will put this in the WhatsApp group so that like people can. So actually, one of the things is that we have in the debate club itself, like the WhatsApp group, we have like several communities, like several sub channels, and we usually use the Vivada channel to like discuss other things. Usually for the debate sessions, we only like share information regarding the actual sessions. So please keep that in mind. I'll put this in the Vivada channel.
I have another suggestion for the WhatsApp thing. Can you add one more channel where we can like just share interesting things, like if we for articles, blog, or YouTube videos? Like it does not seem comfortable to just throw a random, but yeah, it is an interesting blog or some interesting YouTube video in the Vivat channel because it seems out of context.
No, actually, that is the purpose of the channel, is that like you can put this out there and people have something to say, they'll say it. If not, then you know they just like get skipped. So that's fine.
Okay.
That's, and we don't want to have too many channels, you know. Like, so that's why we do all of those in the same Vivada channel.
Okay.
Where is in this WhatsApp channel?
So if you go to thedebateclub.info, so I'll put this in the Zoom chat so that like you can go and join this. So here you'll have links to the WhatsApp and also the YouTube and all these other things.
Maybe we should put redirecting links to all of your other websites in this. Do you have those?
I kind of like don't want to do that. I mean, like I'm doing a lot of things, man. I don't want to put everything in everything.
Okay,
I want to keep it separate.
Because I've joined the debate club like maybe like 2 months ago, and right now only I'm seeing the startup club.
Yeah, I think once these things get big enough, right? I'll probably definitely like cross advertise. We just aren't there yet. We haven't made we are doing like a bunch of cool things they're going to be out soon. We are building an app for this. So we'll launch it soon. That then, you know, it'll be something that I'll share across the communities.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Thank
I think
you
we
for
can close.
Session.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining as well. We'll connect again on next Wednesday, 7 p.m. so that like we can continue the discussion. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Thanks everyone. See you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.